LaAbuela, aka Peter, coming through with the equalizer. We're gonna go into game 3 decider match to see who gets to play SPX, right, in the last chance match. But man, that was a close one, and the next game is gonna be on Eclipse.
Yeah, Eclipse, a pretty good Terran map, I think. LaAbuela botched the game versus Danny. I'm a little bit surprised that vOddy didn't pick Reap the Storm because of how well he played on it in the Race Wars. He looked really good. Sure, Eclipse is another good harassment-based map. The mains are pretty open. So let's see, who's it going to be? Is it going to be vOddy or is it going to be LaAbuela to go on into the decider match, really, to face SPX? So in the top right, in the green, or the teal, we have our Terran player. It is vOddy.
And in the bottom left, the orange Protoss, it is LaAbuela. Yeah, orange versus green. Protoss versus Terran. Eclipse. Gypsy and Nyoka casting. Zero observing. This is BSL 10. Ladies and gentlemen, big thanks to all our sponsors, Blizzard, Wikipedia, Esports Fun, once again. And yeah, these games, today has been a long day, man, and we still have a best of 3 ahead of us after this game, but not getting ahead of ourselves. Still going to be a decider game here between vOddy and LaAbuela, and at this point, who do you think is feeling more confident?
I think LaAbuela is finally feeling good because he had a pretty good game. He got all his bases up and running. He denied some of the attacks from vOddy. I feel like he's going to be feeling pretty good about that one. But at the same time, vOddy, I mean, he was decimating the army over and over and over. It just comes down to, did he realize that maybe overextended a little bit too much? As long as he doesn't think something other than that, where he's just like, oh, I got outplayed or something, I think he should still be in a good position. The lockdown was pretty cute. Never get to see that ever. I personally like lockdown for defensive uses, not in the middle of battle like that. So that was very interesting and had good success. Actually, every time, did you even see one stasis go off? Because I don't remember a single stasis going off.
Honestly, I don't even remember arbiters being in the game.
Yeah, they just got nullified twice by EMP and like 5 times by the lockdown. Like, the lockdown usage was actually really good. So vOddy is impressing me quite a bit because it's hard to control units like that while also macroing, and he was doing a good job. And he hit his +3 timing really fast. So to pick Eclipse, I think, is a wise choice. Split the map versus somebody that you know you're going to trade effectively versus. And then Protoss doesn't have, that 8 base econ. Like, you cannot get 8 bases on this map. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, this map is interesting because, a lot of 2-player maps, like, yeah, it's stuff like match point, stuff that have like very fewer bases. You can just look at it and be like, yeah, this is good late game for Terran because they get to just split the map. But on this map, I mean, Protoss has compensation at the bottom right expansions. Usually Terran likes to expand the top middle and 12 o'clock, then 1 o'clock, then kind of top left. And when they expand like that, I mean, Protoss can just expand to the bottom right. Now, interestingly, LaAbuela, what was the first map these guys played on? Oh, Optimizer, right. It was Optimizer, because I remember it seems like the last game we casted, LaAbuela was going proxy gate, so I think he's actually hiding a pylon there. It's not a proxy for anything, which is nice because look, vOddy's SCV was in LaAbuela's base.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, I thought there was a cancel on range.
Yeah, that would be nuts, but it doesn't look like LaAbuela is interested in actually going all in, and vOddy pulling a bunch of just SCVs and Marines off. Does he know? Okay, he knows there's a pylon here, but LaAbuela, I think, never intended on proxying anything. It's gonna be annoying if he does lose this pylon for free, which might happen, because what's LaAbuela gonna do to defend this? Can't run Dragoons out on the map because the Vulture's already out. So he has to kind of keep at least one Dragoon back. And unfortunately, this proxy pylon is actually going to backfire a bit on LaAbuela because it gets scouted so easily. He has to remake the pylon much earlier, but besides that, everything is looking very standard here.
Well, luckily for LaAbuela, he ended up seeing the vulture move out. It actually got glitched on the ramp. That's why he saw it. So a bit unlucky for vOddy, but because of that, he's not going to take any damage to his probe line. He does lose his pylon, which is, it does hurt for sure. Also, the goons could have instantly countered, but would have had to deal with the vulture on the other side of the map. So that could have gotten dicey real quick. So what's the response going to be from LaAbuela? Because already this build is really jacked up. Generally seeing like a 420 robo is pretty standard, but I didn't see that when we got to look at the main. We may just see Citadel follow up if the robo is too late. So not too sure just yet, but what we did see on vOddy side of the map was multiple vultures coming out. Now range goons are going to have a field day on this bunker, and I don't see anything repairing it. There we go. Finally going to put a couple SCVs down. So for now, he's okay, but it's a bit dicey when you build in a lot of vultures like this.
Even has 5 Marines, making a bunch of vultures, which is... did he research mines? Did he research speed? Like...
No, he got mines, and now he's going to move out. He already laid a couple mines behind the goons, and they're going to intercept these mines probably. Oh, well, these are dead goons. Goodbye. There's 1 down, 2 down. This is exactly what you want to happen as Terran. Mid-right, he's going to try and put a Nexus down, but after losing 3 goons like that, you're not going to be confident to put down a Nexus that fast. Luckily, he did go 3-gate goon or 3-gate follow-up, so he will be able to pump out a decent amount of goons. He cannot have this Nexus be denied.
I mean, he can't even throw it down, to be honest. LaAbuela kind of early game going completely disastrous for him once again. The proxy pylon got killed, which is annoying because you just have to rebuild it, which is kind of offsetting all your timings. And on top of that offset, he also lost the first 2 Dragoons he made. So now he's kind of reset in terms of his unit count. He has to make more units before he expands. Look, he's on 3-gate and only 4 Dragoons still. Very close in supply with the Terran player. And I think still, he still has, he's still going to play kind of a standard game here. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for an expansion. It's just going to be later. And I feel like, again, this is, I mean, vOddy is definitely in a good spot. I'm interested to see. It doesn't look like he's going for a command center because it definitely would have been up by now. 7 minutes in. It's, yeah, I mean, he could still go for a command center. I don't know. What do you think vOddy should be, like, how do you capitalize on this when you know Protoss is just a bit behind? You just keep going with your build? What do you like doing?
I think you just expand here. I mean, these vultures just... It feels like minor damage because, oh wow, he just killed 2 pros, one at mid left and bottom middle, but it's actually massive amounts of damage. This third base is mega delayed, and there's no attempt to even take another third base as LaAbuela. So the only move he can do is to move into 2-base arbiter, but this is a delayed 2-base arbiter. So like, I'm not scared about this at all. So I'm just taking a third base and going with my normal 2-1 timing. At worst, you're going to be facing 1 stasis. There's nothing really to worry about as a Terran facing 1 stasis. I think going for a 5 or 6 fact follow-up is a huge mistake if vOddy ends up going for it. A +1 follow-up. If it's the 7 fact timing, I'm okay with it simply because of how much success players have been having with it today. Observers have been getting killed every single time they come into the base, and it's so punishing because, again, LaAbuela doesn't know what this is. 3 fact doesn't necessarily mean that this is a timing. This could just be you want to definitely secure taking your third base.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a fan of vOddy's build here. I feel like he definitely could have put down the command center if he wanted to go for a command center. If not, it looks like he's getting the starport and a 4th factory before his command center. So it looks like to me he's gearing up for a 2-base play once again. But last game he was also gearing up for a 2-base play and used that to just take a delayed third. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal if he does take a delayed third, especially this game, because Protoss is so far behind. And and getting these getting the factory count up, especially on a map like Eclipse, where there's a lot of ground to cover between your natural and your third as Terran. It is nice because it allows you to defend a lot of busts better. But this is, rapidly as the seconds tick by and as vOddy keeps building stuff in his 2 bases, it looks like it's going to be a 2-base play, an actual committed 2-base play. And, just don't think that's the best way of taking advantage of what happened in this game. But again, we've seen this earlier today where Terra did the 2-base against Boa and completely smashed 2-base arbiter, right? If you get that EMP off, it's so crucial. So this in general is just, it's probably the strongest, like execution wise, it's the strongest build Terran has against Protoss. It's just a very hard 2-base builds because they're easier to execute than your kind of normal 3-base stuff, and they're very hard for Protoss to hold. So I think in general, I guess this is the go-to bread and butter of most Terran players in this tournament. And we can see he's actually getting ready to push out onto the map, but I doubt this is for a push because he only has +1 and his +2 is nowhere near done.
Yeah, he's just trying to alleviate a little bit of pressure in front of his base, get into a better position. Second armory is also spinning, so 2-1's coming in. This is setting up for about a 13-ish minute attack from vOddy. So really, LaAbuela's on the clock. His first arbiter is going to come out at around, oh man, goons falling left and right. You can see how fast they just instantly die. Tanks in siege mode. First arbiter is going to come out around 11:10. That means he'll have 2 arbiters out at 13 minutes if he insta-queues up the second one, but not going to have more than 1 stasis available. And Terran, like I said, not scared of 1 stasis, just they aren't, unless you hit an entire glob of tanks like they're all clumped up. So this is going to be really hard for LaAbuela to actually end up stopping. I think he needs to take a 4th base, like actually just get his econ rolling, because we know that at 13 minutes, vOddy should be attacking. So you need to have as much econ as possible, as many gates as possible.
Yeah, and it looks like vOddy is going to go for that 3 base here. And at the end of the day, like, I feel like when you go for this delayed 3rd base, it doesn't really show, like, it doesn't really change your timing in terms of the push, but definitely once the push happens, it starts showing that the Terran's economy just isn't where it should be. You can see he's only on 5 factories here. It's going to be very hard for him to go up to that 9 factory count. And not only that, but once he pushes, like, his main and his natural is going to be very close to being mined out. So all that Protoss has to deal with is that initial push. It's going to be very hard for Terran to kind of reinforce or rebuild an army, or even take a 4th command center behind it. So in general, I think that's what the weakness is of this delayed 3rd, though it's not really going to affect his actual 2-1 timing. He's going to still come out with a really strong army at 13 minutes, 13 and a half minutes with the vessels and 2-1. He's just not going to have the same economy, the same infrastructure behind it to support it. So all LaAbuela has to do is kind of defend. And honestly, on Eclipse, Eclipse, it's actually a very hard map to do a 2-1 timing on. First of all, it's really hard to kind of attack through the high ground in the middle, bottom right of the map. And so when you attack through the middle of the map, Protoss has a lot of room to go for counterattacks, or a lot of room to kind of position themselves to meet your army very well. So I think in general, it's very tricky to make a strong timing attack work on this map. I think in general, it's much better to just go for a fast 3rd than a 4th and go for like a longer game. But vOddy is going to definitely be committed to doing something with this 2-base push, and we have to see if LaAbuela is going to be able to stop it.
2-1 is done for the Terran player, so expect to move out any second now. Recall's about finished, and the Arbor, if it was instantly started, actually has enough energy for recall. So that movement to the right side of the map, if that's an Arbor, he might go in. Oh, okay, it's an observer. He might go in as soon as he sees Terran move. He already had success with Sylphid going for a recall. So I wouldn't blame it if he just, as soon as we see the blob start moving, like right now, just go for it. There's a lack of turrets. there is no turret ring for vOddy right now. He really skimped out on it. Vultures actually find a complete surround on these goons, trading vultures for goons. That's amazing. Now, I see an orange dot moving. Looks like we're going to the natural. Recall incoming, but is there enough? No, there is enough turrets, but that is huge.
This is gonna be a disaster for LaAbuela because yeah, now look, his army is actually just stuck there, and it's just gonna get completely cleaned up, and it barely killed anything. I mean, it did kill 20 SCVs, but I mean, who cares? Because Terran, honestly, like, you can just start rebuilding SCVs, and he's taking no damage to his main army. So right after this, he's threatening a really strong counterattack, and that's possibly one of the worst recall spots you could go for. You really, when you're recalling against a Terran, 99% of the time, okay, well, 99% of the time, you want to go either for the main or their third base, whichever is less defended. Now, behind this, LaAbuela has double Stargate going, and, you know, definitely nowhere near max. We can see Terran is not quite at the economy he would want to be at. It's very, usually a three-base kind of, a three-basing Terran would be perpetually maxed in this position, and vOddy is at 170 supply, still kind of struggling to get up to the 200 supply mark. So this is where kind of that delayed third command center is coming into play. You can see LaAbuela is expanding top left, has mid left, has a bunch of units, is expanding. His economy far outpaces the Terran economy, but of course PvT, like, you're always, you know, you have to deal with this Terran army that's barreling down the middle of the map.
Well, LaAbuela is just trying to make it chaotic. While he gets attacked, he's going to counterattack. The standing army for both players is really strong. Another recall coming in. This, instantly EMP'd. So that's going to be a dead arbiter. What is that trigger from LaAbuela? Is he just going to go for it? He is. There's no observer in this army, I don't think. There's a lack of zealots, so it's just goons versus a lot of tanks plus mines supporting it. Zealots get on top of 2 of the tanks, and all of a sudden 6 tanks become 4. But still, it's way too much for LaAbuela to deal with, so he backs off. And behind this, he's losing his third base. He's also potentially going to lose 4th and 5th base. He also can lay mines in front of this army, so the tanks really aren't under that much of a threat. Looks like LaAbuela is going to try and set up for another counterattack, and this time might have more success. That is a huge army.
LaAbuela is just going for the base trade style. One thing with LaAbuela, as he comes in, this is going to easily clean up this Terran force. It's too slow in putting more mines down and sieging his tanks, so he's actually going to lose a lot of tanks. And the thing is, LaAbuela, yeah, he's going to lose 1 base, but mid left is still mining, top left is still mining, and he still has all his production. Okay, mid left is not going to mine for a long time, but at this point, vOddy is basically going to lose his base, going to lose a lot of his production and his mining, though 12 o'clock is going to be okay. So I think vOddy can still kind of stabilize on top of this ramp. I was gonna say, just in general, vOddy actually pushing here, EMPing the arbiter. So LaAbuela just every game so far has not been able to use arbiters to their maximum potency. Just no good stasises for these fights. But vOddy, is he committing too much? I don't know if this position is really good for him to kind of funnel all his units together. This is perfect for LaAbuela. As a couple production rounds pop out of the gateways, he has both armies coming in from massive stasis in the middle of the Terran army, and I think LaAbuela is going to be able to clean this up. The supplies are actually really close, though. Terran does a lot of damage to these goons. It's going to be really close. I don't know who's ahead. Dude, these tank shots are massive, though.
Yeah, massive hits from the tanks, and it looked like it could potentially be okay for LaAbuela, but the problem is look at the probe count. There's only 21 probes. He doesn't have any mining at bottom middle, none at his natural. If he had the probe count that vOddy has right now of 45, I would still be okay with his position, but because there's absolutely no econ for him, vOddy's up 20 supply. He's still got 4 bases. He still has the powerful +3 weapon upgrades. These 4 tanks coming out of siege may end up wiping all of these goons too.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do so much damage, and as you pointed out, Nyokin, the thing is, vOddy is so far ahead in worker count, and vOddy knows there's an expansion file left. He's going to, this DT, though, might be the big equalizer. He does get 4 kills, which is not Irrelevant, but still the economic gap is huge. Now LaAbuela is going to be forced to abandon top left. He's going to have to run those probes away. It's really crucial that he runs those probes away because they're really his only workers left. Now vOddy is leaving himself open to counterattack. I don't think he really matters. He really cares too much because his factories are going to pop some units out to defend. LaAbuela looks like he's going to try and go to the 12 o'clock instead. I wonder if there's only mines there, so if he just runs the zealots by to clean up this minefield, he's losing a lot of time. He needs to get in there before those SCVs mine too many resources and forces the command center to lift. So actually this is a very good counterattack from LaAbuela, and LaAbuela, I think he managed to run his probes away. As I mentioned, they're in the middle of the map kind of going back, so that's going to be really crucial. If LaAbuela does not throw away all his units here, which it looks like, yeah, okay. GG.
GG coming in, so it's going to be vOddy moving on to face SPX in the Deciders match. A really crazy back and forth game. It looked like LaAbuela might actually push up into the main and bust through, but something that I noticed in the majority of his fights is it was mostly goons. There was really not that many zealots to soak up mine hits. So because of that, not able to push up the ramp, but very close game, actually. One of the craziest games we've seen so far, and nicely done for vOddy. He's going to eliminate Peter from the tournament, and now we're going to have another TVT. We may actually get to see a TVT conclusion this time.